ìgbàlà ọlọ́run ìgbàlà mo sádìọ́ ọlọ́run ìwò
Towers of Midnight, the penultimate book in the Wheel of Time. And I'm so glad that I get to review this book without having read a single page of Memory of Light. So this is, I don't have any knowledge about what's happening in the finale. And I've just finished this book today and I'm so excited to talk about it. First of all, I'm going to skip out on the spoiler-free section because at this, if you're still watching your videos, thank you. I'm so glad you're still here with me. Also, if you're this far, I'm pretty sure you've already read the series and you know what's happening. So I just want to talk about spoilers right now. Towers of Midnight. I know I'm sounding like really excited because I am really excited to talk about this book. But I want to get through some of the criticisms first. First of all, this book, surprisingly, for the penultimate book of the Wheel of Time, it's a really character-focused book. This is essentially Perrin Ibarra's book. And I really think that this is necessary. This is exactly what I would want from a book before the final book. I'm glad that Perrin has a book. Because, like I said before, for me, when it comes to the slog, I feel like no other character got affected by it more than Perrin Ibarra. The Shido storyline really hindered his overall character arc. And for me, if you watch my earlier reviews, Perrin was like one of the characters I was most invested in. And by Shadows Rising, he was like this superhero warrior and stuff, right? He was super cool. I really liked Perrin. And, and I was like super critical of Matt and Rand. But as time went by, Perrin, eventually, he was one of my favorite characters in the beginning. But over time, Rand and Matt just grew and grew. Their storylines became so much more interesting. We learned so much more about these characters, developing in their powers, whether it is luck or the one power. And while Perrin was kind of at a halt, mostly due to the Shido storyline, which barely progressed and really didn't do much for the character, in my opinion. We got some great moments with the character, but not much to further develop his powers, to further develop his role within the story, like we do get with Rand and Matt and Gwen. And while these characters are growing, he was kind of stagnant for a long time. And eventually, we're here in the finale. Rand, Matt, Gwen, they're all being set in motion for storylines that is going to eventually lead into the final battle. But we still feels like we got so much more to go through with Perrin, so much more development to go through before he could get to that point. And honestly, over time, Perrin kind of got overshadowed by the rest of the Emmonsfielders because the rest of them are in such interesting, amazing places. They've grown so much. And I feel like Perrin just kind of got left to the background. So I'm so happy that this book decided to focus on him and give him much needed development. And what we did get is pretty awesome. One thing that kind of did disorient me with Perrin's stuff, and this is where my criticism come in, is the first half. The first half of Perrin's storyline is further back in the timeline than we are right now. And for example, it's not confusing at all. This isn't like some Westworld timeline where you can reread it and you understand what's going on. It's just disorienting because whenever we read from another character's perspective, like in one of Rand's storylines or Matt's or etc., we know we're in the current present timeline. We know we're pushing towards the last battle, towards some real climactic stuff. It just feels strange that whenever we go to Perrin, we're going backwards in the timeline and we're having to establish Perrin. Because in the previous book, we know Perrin's going to meet up with Galad. We know that Morghese will reveal her identity. So it just feels like we're playing catch up. We're playing catch up. We're waiting for all of this to happen until Perrin's storyline can meet its crux, could catch up to the point where his storylines can converge with the other characters, because the other characters are way further along in their storylines than Perrin is. So the first half of this book did feel like a lot of catch up. I felt like I was catching up with Galad and the White Cloaks and that eventual confrontation with the two. What I did like about it is Galad. I think Galad is a perfect foil for Perrin, especially because Perrin has had a history with the White Cloaks. And these two characters are characters of honor, and they're very true to themselves, right? And so he's the perfect foil for Perrin. I would have loved all of this much more if we saw it in the previous book. I think you could work your way around to at least introducing this confrontation between the White Cloaks and Perrin's forces in the previous book, whether it's just a couple hundred pages or not. And then once we do get to Towers of Midnight, we're already like halfway through this storyline. I would have liked that much better, especially because part of this storyline, part of Perrin's storyline, is him resuming his training in the Wolf Dreams, which we haven't seen for a long time. We haven't seen him use this power in ages. And this is also something that I think he could have done some training in the Wolf Dream during the Shido storyline. It could have really helped balance things out. It really does feel like we're cramming a lot of story into this, and it really feels like we're playing catch up. We're rushing his training, we're rushing his confrontation with the White Clothes so he can catch up with the other characters. It's what we do get is really good, but I can't help but feel like it's catch up. However, once we do get Galad and Perrin, we get that whole trial of Perrin because the White Cloaks accusing him of murdering Bornhald and all the other White Cloaks back in like the eye of the world. And Morghese, Galad's stepmother, is there, so when he does meet her, he recognizes her identity is revealed. She's chosen to be kind of this mediator, this neutral perspective, this neutral third party that will govern this trial that's going on right now. And Perrin is accused guilty, however, Galad is in charge of issuing his punishment. Eventually, over time, Perrin in the Wolf Dreams, his camp can't leave. They can't use gateways because in the Wolf Dream there's a Ter Ungrial that's preventing gateways from being created. So he needs to learn his powers in the Wolf Dream to confront Slayer. If you remember, Slayer was that guy from all the way in Shadow Rising, right? So he's back. He's the reason why these gateways aren't working. Perrin needs to train. He needs to worry about this White Clothes, and he needs to train the Wolf Dream to make sure that they can make gateways and get to Camlin. And once we do get to that confrontation, it's pretty cool. I really like the Wolf Dream, the world of dreams. The possibilities are endless. He's so in tune with the world of dreams. He can alter it to his imagination, right? And that fight with Slayer was awesome. The Ter Ungrial Dome thing and the way it ties into a Gwen storyline, I'll get to that later. Really well, it was really well done. I really enjoyed it. And that eventual confrontation was awesome. They made gateways, but it doesn't end there. When Perrin does get to Camlin, he gets to Whitebridge. Not to Camlin yet, he gets to Whitebridge, but he knows what's going on. Because in the background, Semirhage is planning a trap for Perrin. He's one of the two Terravarren and she wants to get better word with the Great Lord. She wants to kill Perrin. Perrin just unconsciously makes a new Ter Ungrial hammer, which was an awesome scene, and he has this ability to create weapons of power. And he makes sure, go back to the Gul'dan, because we think he's going to confront the White Clothes once and for all. He's going to actually attack them. No, after really analysing the situation with Slayer and the gateways, he realises that a trap was set up for him. That a trap was set up for him by the Shadow, and that trap is still there, and the White Cloaks are still there, and he's not going to leave men who could fight in the last battle to their deaths. So we get Perrin fighting against the Shadows along with the help of the White Cloaks, and obviously that is the thing that will bring the two parties together eventually. That was all handled beautifully. I despite the fact that a lot of Perrin's storyline was playing catch up, when we get to the latter half of it, it's awesome. It's awesome, and I'm back on the Perrin hype train. I'm investing in this character once again. He's in the right position right now to play a big role in the finale, and I'm glad that Brandon Sanderson and Robert Jordan made the creative decision to really make this Perrin's book, which was much needed. And obviously, when Perrin eventually does get to Camlin, along with Galad, we get a reunion with Elaine and Morghese. There's also this kind of hostile confrontation between Elaine, Fael, and Perrin, because Perrin is a self-proclaimed lord in Andoran territory, because the Two Rivers is part of Andor. They come to an agreement. That was all fine. I'll get to that in the lane section. Gwen reforming the White Tower has been one of the most consistent story arcs in the series. In this book, we're seeing the Aes Sedai finally confronting the Black Archer. Before this, we get Nynaeve. We get this awesome chapter with Nynaeve. She takes the test to gain the shawl, and they're all going super harsh on her. The chapter was just as good as her accepted test, and I'm continuously emotionally invested in Nynaeve as a character. And just her defiance is something that really makes me love the character so much, and seeing her really defy the Aes Sedai's values, saying that we can't be detached from people. If we're here to serve people, we need to have empathy and love and caring, and that's and it fits in perfectly for Nynaeve's character. She's a healer. She doesn't heal because it's a challenge. She heals because she wants to. She cares for these people. I really love Nynaeve, but Egwene. So Egwene knows that Missana is secretly posing in the White Tower. She concocts a plan to lure her into Talan Riod to have a battle, right? To really to lay a trap for her. Obviously, Talan Riod is the world of dreams, the same as the Wolf Dreams. Perrin utilizes a different kind of power, but it's the same setting. So his confrontation, his battle with Slayer, soon converges with Elaine's battle. So Elaine and the Aes Sedai fighting the Black Arja in Talan Riod, and they struggle to get out of there or move beyond the location of the White Tower because Perrin is hauling a big ass dome to their location without realizing it, which kind of works in their favor by the end. And that whole fight scene with Gorn realizing what it means to be a warder. He needs to renounce his role as a prince and really begin to understand that as Egwene's warder, he needs to support her in her decisions and he needs to better her, and that's his role. And so, him eventually going to confront the blood knives that are out there, the Sinchan blood knives that are out there to assassinate Egwene. Egwene in Talan Riod with the other Aes Sedai and Nynaeve and Shran, etc., battling the Black Arja, and then Perrin hauling a big ass dome. We're jumping from all these different perspectives. It feels very Brandon Sanderson. This felt more Brandon Sanderson than Robert Jordan, but I think it works well in here because we're getting all these different perspectives and it works so well. It's high intensity, the stakes are high, and there's so much going on. You know, we have Gorn battling 3 different blood knives in the dark. That was an awesome fight scene, the parent stuff, and then Egwene confronting Missana, and not just that, she's confronting her greatest fears, which was her past with the Sinchan. She has that chain around her, that Soldam chain. It was called. This reminds me a lot of Nynaeve versus Moghedien. It's these 2 characters confronting their greatest fears, and obviously Egwene defies Missana, kind of like breaks her brain or something. Like Missana's broken in the mind or something. I don't know how Egwene did that. And you got the other wise ones there fighting with her. Just overall, what a badass thing. It was one of the best fight scenes, like just battles in general we've got in the series. Before that, oh my god, I completely forgot to mention, in the beginning we have this awesome scene where Rand just pops up in the White Tower. So Egwene, he just pops up unannounced and he tells Egwene that he's got to break the Dark One's seals, and there's some hostility between the two. He announces there's going to be a meeting in this certain location. He wants all the world leaders there, everyone under his banner, including Elaine and Andor and the White Tower, obviously. And just, there's so much I have to talk about. There's so much I have to talk about. I can't even talk. I'm just going to say I can't get through everything right here. I'm going to just say this. I think when I review A Memory of Light, that thing's going to be like an hour long. I'm going to talk about Elaine and Rand. Okay. Elaine is in Andor, and she's currently setting up plans to become a queen in Cairhien as well, and really unite those 2 lands. Before that, we get Matt finally coming into Camlin. I love the letter Matt gives Elaine. That was hilarious. The reunion with Tom and Elaine and Matt and Bridget was great. I really do. These are one of the few dynamics that I really felt in, like, I think it was Crown of Swords or something. So I'm glad we got the Ebudar team back. If only Nynaeve was there. And then Matt gives her the plans to make the dragons. Matt needs resources. Elaine has them, but they strike a deal so that the band would have authority over the dragons, although they are under the ownership of Elaine and Andor. Seeing Elaine kind of become a not slightly ruthless leader, right? You know, the way she treated Aaron Miller and kind of hostility towards Perrin and Fail, and we're seeing her really become a Machiavellian politician, right? She's privatizing the dragons. Matt giving her the Foxes. She wants to incorporate the Foxes within her own military as well. She's kind of thinking like a conqueror almost. I love the subtle hints that we get in Elaine. You know, she's not that pristine, really soft-spoken girl that we remember from the previous book. She's a force to be reckoned with. She's a big player, and she's in this book, by the end of this book, having Kehian under her belt, striking a deal with Perrin and making the Two Rivers its own kingdom that's kind of part of that Andor, reinstating Perrin as High Lord of the Two Rivers, and obviously Geldan and Mayene are part of Perrin's side, so she has all of these things under her belt as her the supreme ruler, and she is just an important political figure as Gwen and Rand. And seeing her rise to power was just great. Also, we have that confrontation between Elaine and the Black Archer members she was holding in prison, right? And that whole fight scene. And because of the viewings she got from Min, she really is overconfident. And so this is kind of like a waking up call that her children's safety doesn't always determine her own safety and her own future. It's an awesome fight scene, by the way. I really like personal one-on-one confrontations like that. One thing I didn't realize, Rand has like one chapter in this. Rand only has one perspective chapter in this. He's prominent, don't get me wrong, but in other people's perspectives. So every time we see Rand, it's mostly in Min or Kadasan's perspective, right, on other people's perspective. And this is done on purpose, because after merging with Luce Saren, he has that fight in him. He has that will in him. But he also has kind of, by viewing Rand from other people's perspectives, you really get a sense that he's become this like eldritch being, and he's just so all-knowing. He has the memories of Randolph Thor and Luce Theron. He has all this history with him. He's the way he acts is almost like he is some kind of ancient being, and we really get that effect because it is in other people's perspectives. And I love that creative decision. Now, I've always said I love seeing Rand in other people's perspective because it's such a fascinating character. Because you don't know what's going on in his mind. Just the sheer power he has, like that one scene where I think it was at Maradon or something, where in the Blight, the Trolls are in the Blight right now. We're getting perspectives from Iturald, and it looks like the Trolls are going to win, right? Rand comes in, he just does his side in one power. I mean, he doesn't use the one power anymore, it's the true power that he uses, right? And he just wipes them all out. The sheer power this man is. Randolph Thor might be just one of the most powerful characters in fiction, maybe. We also, from Min, we learn so much more about the prophecy. She's doing a lot of research about Calendar, how he needs 2 women to wield Calendar, and we're learning so much. But I'm gonna take these prophecies with a grain of salt, and I'll tell you why later. I don't trust these prophecies. There's a double meaning in all of them. Overall, even though we don't get much Rand in here, what we do get is phenomenal. And like I said, with Iturald, I think we got too much. I like interlude chapters when we get just one every now and then. I felt like Iturald was too prominent of a character, especially when we're in the penultimate book and this is a newly introduced character. It's necessary, but I think there's too much emphasis placed in this. I would have liked it if it was like Lan or Bashir or someone, right? Matt. I'm leaving Matt till last because got a lot to talk about. He has some stuff in here, specifically towards the end. So let me go in the beginning. Matt reaches Camden. We get his interactions with Elaine. That was great, hilarious. I love his relationship with Elaine and Burgett. Matt finally confronts the Golem the first time. That was awesome because Teslin. This was cool because I think it was like Lord of Chaos. The Aes Sedai were experimenting on Matt. They were trying to see the extent of his Foxhead medallion, and they realized that even though they can't touch him with the one power, they can weave objects and hit it at him. And Teslin uses that same thing to save Matt from the Golem by throwing a bunch of objects at it. So that was a really cool callback. I really like that. And when we do get to the final confrontation, man, I just love one-on-one fight scenes. And so seeing the plan that Matt and the band have, and Talmain's eventually leading the Golem into that building where there is a kinswoman who has a gate open out to, when there's different types of gateways. This is the skimming one where they're in that void. So Matt eventually pushes the Golem into the void. Awesome fight scene. Love that fight scene. Great way to put a close in the whole Golem situation. And I love the Golem. I think he's he's just a force to be reckoned with. He's like the T-1000. He has one purpose, and none of the power can't touch him. He's super malleable and flexible. It's creepy as hell, and he has one goal, and that is to kill people. Right? I love villains like that. I like my villains with a lot of depth, but sometimes it's just refreshing to have an antagonist who's just a brute force. But obviously, the thing I want to talk about last here is the Tower of Genji. Genji? This is the storyline I was like most anticipated to read. And man, it blew my expectations out of the water. It wasn't like an entire storyline. It was a good few chapters, but man, It was a banger. Oh, it was so good. Them to Matt, Noel, and Tom in this tower is so atmospheric. You know, the Alphen, I forgot, is it Alphen or Elfin? I don't know. The Fox people. The Fox people, that's what I'll call them, right? The Fox people are there and just they look so creepy. They kind of have these elf-like features, but then they have these sharp teeth. It's so mysterious. I really get this kind of cerebral vibes within this tower. They're so mysterious, this realm that they're in. There's so much we don't know, but I kind of love how little we know about them, right? And they're journeying through this, they're going through these different corridors, but it's the same room all the time. We learned from Burgett that it's almost near impossible to escape from this place. But Matt has luck, and the way his luck was used is so clever because he uses his dice to calculate which doors to go through because his luck will tell him which doors to go through. His luck will work all the time, right? And by throwing 3 dices, like saying, oh, this corridor is number 1, this corridor is number 2, but if he throws 3 dices, how often will you get number 1, right? And he knows that, so because his luck is so powerful, only 1 dice is rolled and the other 2 are like frozen in midair or something. It's just little subtle stuff, the little subtle uses of his powers like this. He's so in depth, like he's become so used to how to use his power to a T. It's just so cool to see. If you don't know, Matt Cawthon, I think, has the coolest power in the entire series. Just the whole segment, just awesome. Them traversing around through it, Tom using his music to lull one of them to sleep. It's super intense, and eventually they find Maureens there. Tom gets Maureens out of there, boom, and then we're back in that little podium area where we see all these 8 Alphen, and they need to make a bargain, right? If they want to escape him, Matt has to make a deal with them. And we're seeing one of his prophecies come into play, which was to give up half the light of the world to save the world. This one's always confused me because I never knew what it really meant. Because when you hear of light, you think of the all-knowing light, you know, the light that they refer to. But no, what this means is that to save Maureens, he has to give up something. So he says, okay, I sacrifice half the light of the world. He knows this is coming. And they rip out his freaking eye. Oh my god, this thing was brutal. And I loved it. Like, and just the sacrifice that he's made. You don't expect Matt Cawthon to make a sacrifice like this. But man, that scene was just... I was on the edge of my seat this entire segment, right? And we finally find out that Maureens has a role to play. This is why she's still in the fold of things. You know, these Tower of Errands, you know, Rand lost a hand, Matt lost an eye. Perrin better be careful, he might end up losing a leg or something. I've got to say, I think out of everyone, Perrin has got the best deal out of this Tower of Errands thing. You know, he's married, he's got a sexy beard, he's High Lord of 2 Rivers. Rand, I don't even need to explain. Nobody's envious of that guy. And Matt lost his freaking eye, and he's married to some Sin-Chan Empress. After that sacrifice, the Fox people. The Fox people are like, sure, we're not going to attack you. That's part of the bargain. We'll leave the gateway open. But it doesn't mean that the Snake people can get you. The Snake people are out there chasing him down, and then they don't have time to throw his dice, and you know, shit's going out, storm, they're using the fireworks, they're running out. Noel reveals himself to be Jane Fast Rider. He makes a sacrifice play so that Matt and Tom and Maureens can reach the gateway that will lead them to the Stone of Terror. That gateway is destroyed, and all hope is lost. And then Matt goes over his original bargain with them. So I knew that the Foxhead medallion was because he didn't want to be associated with Aes Sedai, right? He didn't want to be in control of the Aes Sedai. That was obvious. But I never really thought about the other ones. And I'm so stupid that I never realized that his memories of the old warriors, of the old memories of the past, right? And he had a bargain because he had gaps in his memories and he needed them to be filled. But he wasn't specific because they filled it with other people's memories. I should have seen that one coming. I can't believe I never saw that one coming. That's so obvious. And the other thing is so that he can get out of this place. But what never really matched was the Ashandari, right? And this spear he has. And we eventually find out it's not a spear, it was a gateway. It's a key to get out of this place. It's how he got out in the first place. He didn't remember because he was strung and hung up. But it was a key the whole time. And we see him draw the triangle down there, opens up a gateway, and they get out. Man, this entire segment was like the stakes were high. It was so atmospheric. I just loved it. I loved the whole Tower of Genji segment. One of the best things to come out of here. It's so mysterious. There's so much you could theorize about these people. And Maureens Back. Maureens Back. Oh, it feels so good to have Maureens back. She has a romance with Tom. I'm not gonna deal with this much, you know. When you read, I can enjoy the Wheel of Time and I can acknowledge the fact that the Wheel of Time's romances kind of suck. Most of them suck. That's fine. You just move over it. You know, I never really got the impression that Tom and Maureen had a romance. But fine. You just watch over it. But you just pass it by. But I really like Tom Merlin and I really love Maureen, and it's great to have these characters back. Matt, you know, Matt sacrificed that whole eye segment, the whole everything. Super invested in this character. There's still so much for him to do. Like, I don't know how him and the Horn of Valere will tie into the last battle. So I'm excited to see what that whole goes on. Overall, this book was awesome. Like, the first half I had issues with because it was a lot of parent and there was a lot of catching up to do. But the last half of this book, man, so good. If I were to just rate the last half of this book, it'd be a 10 out of 10. But I've got to acknowledge that the first half was kind of slower than I would expect for a penultimate book. However, I really enjoyed this book. You can tell how excited I am talking about all of this. Overall, I do think The Gathering Storm is a little bit better because I think it's a bit more focused and a bit more contained. And I think Ryan's arc just was woven in beautifully within The Gathering Storm. Perrin's arc was great in here, but I did feel like a lot of catch up. Don't get me wrong, Perrin, I'm super invested in that character again. Matt as well, Elaine, Gwen. I love all of these characters. I love all of them. I'm so happy. I'm so happy Maureen's back. I'm just gassed. I'm gassed. I'm so excited to read A Memory of Light. I'm kind of sad that it's the last book. You know, when I started this journey, you know, I was like, oh yeah, I can't wait to finish this series and talk about this more and really see what the hype was about. But now, I kind of feel sad that the journey's coming to an end, man. And before, I was like, when I first read The Idle World, I was like, there's no way I'm going to reread this series. It's too long. It's too long. Dude, I'm tempted to reread the series and go back and see everything that was set up because the attention to detail is amazing. But otherwise, yeah, Tales of Midnight is exactly what it needed to be. The way the Wheel of Time has built up this finale is phenomenal. This is up there with Avatar: The Last Airbender, Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, and Attack on Titan in terms of stories that have really set up their finales so well, that really have an amazing build-up. You know, build-up is important. Wheel of Time has done an impressive job. I'm super excited. I'm really excited to find out what happens. And I'm sorry, I forgot to give a rating. I'm gonna give this book a solid 8 out of 10. Same rating I gave to Gathering Storm. I put Gathering Storm a little bit higher. But overall, I really like Towers of Midnight, and I'm pumped to read A Memory of Light. Anyway, guys, tell me what you thought in the comment section below, and thank you for watching.